Yate, my relatives. Hello, this is Mark Charles. I want to give you an update regarding my Common Memory tour. And I want to start by thanking each of you for your support and the donation you gave are given to this tour. It's your contribution and your partnership that helps make this tour possible. So thank you, my relatives, for your willingness to partner with me as I work to create common memory in an effort to build a healthier community across Turtle Island. I want to update you on some of the travel that I've done recently, as well as give you the dates of some upcoming travel I have. In fact, I'm leaving tomorrow for the Pacific Northwest. But let me first talk about the two events I did earlier this month when I was down in Atlanta, Georgia, and near Chattanooga, Tennessee, at a place called Soddy Daisy, speaking at a church called the Woodlands Gathering. It was a really good event that we had at Woodlands Gathering. I was very grateful for Pastor Greg and his staff who welcomed me and hosted me there and helped support getting me down there. I was also very grateful for the event that they hosted. We had about 25, maybe 30 people who were there. And what made this event very unique is Woodlands Gathering. It's a native-run church, and they work really hard to create a safe space for some even challenging and controversial dialogue, especially regarding Native history. And I had spoken there before when I was on my Unsettling Truths book tour event back in 2022, about 3 years ago, and they were excited to have me back on this tour event coming, the Common Memory Tour. And yeah, the event went well. There was about 25 people there. They gave me as long as I wanted to speak. I was hoping to speak for 90 minutes. I spoke for a little over 2 hours. It was nice to be able to go through my content, covering Christian nationalism, creation story, and corn, content from Unsettling Truths, Decolonizing Faith, and Decolonizing Health, the three books I'm either written or working on right now. But I went a bit longer than I thought, but I was so grateful they gave me the time and just the space to be able to go as deep as I needed to into the discussion. Um, and what struck me the most was that at the end of the presentation, we took like a 2 or 3 minute break. Very few people left. It was already after 9 o'clock, and we stayed for more than an hour of Q&A after that event was over. And actually, it didn't start at 7; it started at 6, I think. So we were there 8. We stayed for almost 90 minutes of Q&A after it was over, and I was really kind of blown away. I don't think I've ever had such a long Q&A. And some of it was a little tense because I was dealing with some majority culture Christians in the South, and my presentation, especially the stuff on creation stories, asked some very difficult questions about not only the Christian faith, but the Christian scriptures and the Bible. And I really tried to present it as I am the grandson of boarding school survivors, and this is what my grandparents were told, and this is what they experienced as they were compelled to faith in the boarding schools. And so it asked some very challenging and at times even uncomfortable questions. And I was grateful that people stayed and no one walked out in the middle of the presentation. And I was grateful that there was such great engagement in the Q&A afterwards. There was a few places where things got, I don't know, tense might be too strong a word, but you could tell there was a lot going on for people. But I was grateful people were able to hang in, and I felt like the discussion went really well. One of the things it reminded me of is, especially as I continue to presenting this content, especially around faith, to conservative majority culture audiences who have never really asked difficult questions about their faith and about the scriptures that they have placed so much trust in. And I'm not saying they shouldn't trust in them, but I'm trying to get them to see how some of these scriptures have been weaponized and the ways they've been used to really hurt people from the margins as well as women. And so, yeah, it reminded me that I need to be very intentional as I present this content and make sure I don't unnecessarily lose people just because I go too quickly or make too many assumptions or don't give enough context as I'm talking about these events, because they can be very, very triggering for people. But I also really love, there were several questions I was asked by people from the margins who were in the audience who felt very free to kind of ask the questions they were asking and to engage with the content. And one of the things I was also really grateful for was there were several people, like I said, there were about 25 people at the event. One family, a good friend of mine, drove up all the way from Atlanta to hear me speak. And another father and his son drove all the way across Tennessee, about almost 4 hours, to come and hear me speak. And so while we didn't have a very large group, we literally had people from within a 7 hour radius around the area to come and hear. And so that was really encouraging to see that so many people are engaged and willing even to drive fairly long distances to be able to engage in these types of dialogues. So that was a really fun event that we did in Chattanooga, Saudi Daisy at Woodlands Gathering. And then 2 days later, I was actually, the next day, I think it was, I was in Atlanta. And a good friend of mine, Leroy Barber, who lives in Atlanta, hosted me. And we had just a small event at his house. It was in his backyard. And it was fun just to be able to be there. And we had a much smaller crowd there, less than 10, I think. But we really framed that dialogue around the Declaration of Independence and the 4th of July, which we had just celebrated a few weeks earlier. And it was a good discussion. Even though it was a smaller group, I really enjoyed the conversation that we had, the Q&A we have afterwards, and it was fun to kind of frame it around specifically the Declaration of Independence and to really focus on the 4th of July. Unfortunately, I did not get a recording of the event in Chattanooga. The church had recorded it, but that recording got deleted. And so I was not able to get a recording of that event. But I did do an audio recording of the event in Atlanta. And I'm looking for a place to post that. I will probably post it to my Patreon site where you can view it publicly, as well as to the GoFundMe site where you can be able to listen to it here as well. And I want to just share with you a few pictures that we took at the event. My daughter has been traveling with me and helping me think through and process through how to present this content, how to make it as concise as possible. And she's also been taking pictures and helping answer questions after each event. And so at the Saudi Daisy event, here's a few of the pictures that she took while I was speaking, and you can see the church we were at and just the different discussion or the me up front dialoguing with people. And then Google, it likes to kind of spice up some of your pictures, so it kind of took one of the pictures and it made this background for it, which I think it's not a bad picture at all. So that was kind of fun. And then in Atlanta, my friend runs an Airbnb, and my daughter and I actually stayed in their camper, their RV, which is right outside their house. And so we spoke in their backyard, which is set up as kind of a community area, and just sat outside and had conversation. We roasted some hot dogs and hamburgers and had a discussion. And that event went really well. And I really enjoyed the conversation that we had there too. And then, of course, if you followed me on social media, you know that my daughter and I stopped at several places. This was at a great barbecue place we stopped at in Knoxville when we were driving into Tennessee. And I forget the name of this restaurant, but it was outstanding food. This is at then we stopped for a few places for ice cream as well. I think this place was in Chattanooga where we got some ice cream, if I remember correctly. And then we had some fantastic biscuits and sausage egg sandwiches, also in Chattanooga. And so, yeah, it was fun just to visit a lot of local restaurants and to meet some people who worked in the restaurants and who ran them. And then, of course, to eat some very delicious and very enjoyable food. So those were fun events and fun times to be at. So today I'm recording this. It's Wednesday, July 30th, almost the end of July, and I am leaving tomorrow. My daughter and I are flying to the Pacific Northwest, and I am going to be hosting 2 events for my Common Memory Tour. One near Seattle in a place called Shoreline, Washington, and the second in a place called the Dalles in Oregon, which is just east of Portland. So the first event is tomorrow evening, which is Thursday, July 31st. It's at 7 p.m. Pacific time. I will be at Ronald United Methodist Church, and the talk I'm giving is Christian Nationalism, Creation Stories, and Corn. This is the presentation I've been given most places as I travel around the country on this tour. And then on Saturday, which is August 2nd, also at 7 p.m. in the evening, I will be at St. Paul's Episcopal Church in the Dalles, Oregon. And this is about an hour east of Portland. And I'm there hosted by the Coalition to Dismantle the Doctrine of Discovery. They're having their annual meetings and have invited me to come and speak. And so I'm going to be giving the same talk there, Christian Nationalism, Creation Stories, and Corn. The biggest challenge with all of the presentations I've been given is I have so much content, literally almost 10 years of content I've been researching and drawing together as I've written on Selling Truths and working on my new book, Decolonizing Faith, as well as researching for the book, Decolonizing Health. And my biggest challenge in this presentation, because this presentation, Christian Nationalism, Creation Stories, and Corn, is drawing from each of my books, right? Christian Nationalism is primarily taking from On Selling Truths. Creation Stories is primarily taking from my book I'm writing right now on decolonizing faith, and Corn is taking content from the book I'm researching on decolonizing health. Christian Nationalism, the On Selling Truths, that book was a public and open rebuke of the church. The second book I'm working on right now, Decolonizing Faith, the purpose and intent of that book is to literally cause a crisis of faith in the church. And Decolonizing Health, the Corn presentation, is really about an invitation to our nation and to the majority culture, especially those from colonial lands. It's a way to frame the dialogue on what does it look like to belong? And what does it mean for you to build relationships with the indigenous peoples of Turtle Island in such a way that you can get a deeper sense of belonging here, instead of as colonizer, but as relative or as belonging in these areas, in these lands. And so I'm really trying to frame all three of these dialogues. There's a lot of content, and my biggest challenge has been every presentation I go long. And fortunately, that hasn't been a real problem, but it gets a little bit lengthy at times. And I'm always working to make it as concise as possible. In fact, this week I've taken several hours to go through my content and to really try to hone it as best I can. I'm really bummed that the presentation in Chattanooga, that recording got deleted, because my daughter attested to it. I felt really good about that presentation, felt it tied all three of those messages together really well. And she actually agreed with me and said that was one of the best presentations that I had given so far. And so the fact that that recording got deleted was very unfortunate. But I've taken from that, and I'm now working to even make it even more concise. I would love to get this talk down to about 75 to 90 minutes, leaving 15 to 20 minutes for some good Q&A. But I'd like to have these events be about 2 hours in length total. And so that's my goal going into the presentation in Seattle, as well as going into the presentation in east of Portland at the Dalles. And so if you are in the Seattle, Washington area, Shoreline, Washington, or that area, please come to this event. The location has a very large auditorium. I believe it holds several hundred people. I don't know how many we're expecting. But I'm really looking forward to having that event there. And we're hoping to live stream this one as well. I don't have a link where that will be live streamed at, but as I learn where that information is, I will share it as best I can on my GoFundMe. I do not know. I don't think they're recording the event at the Dalles at St. Paul's Episcopal Church, but I am going to record both of these events myself, at least the audio. So even if nothing else gets recorded or something gets deleted in the future, I will have the recordings myself that I can post them online and you can listen to them as well. So my relatives, I'm grateful for you. Thank you for your partnership and your support in helping me build Common Memory. And of course, if you would like to continue to support this Common Memory Tour, I welcome you to feel free and invite you to donate on my GoFundMe. I am using these monies to cover administrative and logistical as well as travel expenses and costs for this tour. And if there are funds available, I'm using them to pay myself a modest honorarium so I can continue to put food on the table for my family. But my relatives, thank you for your support. Thank you for your partnership in helping me create this common memory. And it is my goal that we can build a healthier community so that we can all learn how to walk in beauty together. Actually, I have my relatives. Hakone.